She truly believed, without a shadow of a doubt, that just a few carefully chosen words would be enough. Enough to have a black man removed from first class. Enough to restore what she thought was the natural order of things. But what she never expected was for him to simply reach into his pocket, pull out his badge, and reveal exactly who he was. The encounter that changed everything. Patricia Langford walked through Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport with a kind of effortless grace that only comes from a lifetime of privilege. Her designer carry-on rolled behind her with smooth precision, its wheels gliding over the polished airport floors. She barely paid attention to the other travelers around her. This wasn't just another trip. It was a routine, lifestyle. She had flown this route more times than she could count. Dallas to Washington, D.C. Always first class. Never anything less. It was a standard she refused to compromise on. The experience was familiar, predictable, exactly how she liked it. Priority boarding. The delicate clink of crystal glasses filled with complimentary champagne. The quiet murmur of well-dressed professionals engaged in hushed, important conversations. It was her world. A world of exclusivity. A world where things were as they should be. At least that's what she thought, until she arrived at her row, and saw him. Black man. Seated. In first class. Silent challenge. Her steps faltered ever so slightly. The moment her eyes landed on him, something inside her bristled. He wore a crisp navy blue suit. Immaculate, perfectly tailored. His laptop was already open, fingers gliding across the keyboard with practiced ease. His posture was relaxed, yet there was an air of quiet confidence about him. A presence that couldn't be ignored. Patricia felt a tightness in her chest. First class wasn't supposed to be like this. She forced a polite smile, but the slight tension in her jaw betrayed her. Setting her designer tote down a little too forcefully, she slid into her seat beside him. The man, however, didn't react. Didn't glance up. Didn't acknowledge her in the slightest. As if her presence didn't matter. That unsettled her even more. His focus remained locked on his screen, the glow of the display reflecting against his dark skin. His expression was unreadable, his fingers typing effortlessly. He looked like a man deep in his work, someone who belonged here. But Patricia, she wasn't convinced. She inhaled sharply, shifting in her seat, her movements small but deliberate. Her purse brushed against his armrest. No reaction. Her fingers curled against the leather of the armrest as she cast a glance around the cabin. Wasn't anyone else noticing this? Her discomfort solidified into something stronger. And then she made a decision. The first attempt. Leaning slightly toward him. Just enough to make her presence unmistakable, she spoke. "Excuse me," she said, her voice measured, polite. Too polite. "Are you sure you're in the right seat?" For the first time he paused. But he didn't look at her. Yes. That was it. No elaboration. No explanation. Just a simple, confident, undeniable answer. Patricia blinked. Her fingers drummed against the armrest as she turned her head, scanning the cabin once more, searching for someone to intervene. And then she saw her. Emily Jacobs. A young flight attendant in her early 30s, currently assisting a few passengers just a couple of rows ahead. Without hesitation, Patricia lifted her hand slightly. A silent signal, an unspoken request. Emily noticed. She approached with her usual professional warmth. "Is everything all right, ma'am?" Patricia exhaled softly, a carefully constructed breath, meant to seem light-hearted. She forced a small chuckle, shaking her head as if amused. "I think there's been a little mix-up. I believe this gentleman is in the wrong seat." Emily's smile didn't falter. Instead, she retrieved the passenger manifest from her tablet, her fingers moving swiftly across the screen. Brief pause. A quick glance at Daniel. "Actually, Mr. Stokes is in his correct seat," she confirmed smoothly. "Your ticket says 2A, and he's in 2B. Patricia stiffened. Her lips parted slightly, but no words came out. She forced another chuckle, this one thinner, more strained. That's odd, she murmured. Are you sure? I just assumed. Emily's expression remained unchanged. I'm sure, ma'am. Everything looks correct. The second attempt. Patricia's smile was tight. Too tight. But she didn't argue. Not yet. Instead, she turned toward the window, exhaling sharply. But she wasn't done. Not even close. Her mind raced. This wasn't right. She had flown first class for decades. This had never happened before. And she wasn't about to just sit there and accept it. Her fingers hovered over the call button for a moment before pressing it. A soft chime overhead. Emily reappeared. Is there something I can help you with, ma'am? Patricia straightened. I'd like to request a seat change. Emily hesitated. Oh, are you uncomfortable? Is there an issue with the seat itself? Patricia took a breath. She couldn't say it outright. She wouldn't say it outright. Instead, she tilted her head slightly toward Daniel, lowering her voice. I don't feel comfortable sitting here. For the first time, Emily's professional demeanor wavered. Just a fraction. I'm sorry to hear that, ma'am. If there's a technical issue, I'd be happy to. No, Patricia interrupted. It's not the seat, she hesitated, inhaling sharply. I just prefer to sit elsewhere. Emily's eyes flickered toward Daniel, who had once again paused his typing. But he still hadn't spoken. Still hadn't reacted. Let me check for open seats, Emily offered, tapping her screen. Seconds ticked by. And then, the answer Patricia never expected. I'm afraid we're at full capacity, ma'am. There are no open first-class seats available. Patricia's stomach clenched. Emily offered a polite smile. Would you like me to check in economy? There might be an available seat there. Economy. As if she would ever. A hush settled over the cabin. People were listening, watching. And Patricia knew it. Her jaw tightened. Her mind whirled. And then she played her final card. Her voice was low, controlled, but laced with unmistakable weight. I don't feel safe. Phrase so simple, so carefully chosen. And yet it changed everything. Daniel closed his laptop. This time when he looked at her, it wasn't with frustration. It wasn't with anger. It was with something far more powerful. Certainty. Then, slowly, he reached into his pocket and pulled out his badge. BI. The moment everything changed. Emily stood there, still unwavering. She didn't move right away. Her posture had shifted, subtle but telling. A quiet tension settled in her shoulders, her fingers tightening against the passenger manifest. Her eyes flickered toward Daniel, searching for some sign of reaction. But he had already closed his laptop. His hands rested lightly on top of it. His expression unreadable. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't frowning. He was simply watching, studying Patricia. And Patricia. She didn't waver. Not yet. Emily exhaled slowly, measuring her words before she spoke. Ma'am, her voice was careful, deliberate. Are you saying you feel threatened? Direct question. One that required a clear answer. Patricia tilted her head slightly, as if considering it, as if weighing her response like a chess move. Then she gave the smallest shrug, her lips curving into a polite, almost apologetic smile. I'm not saying that, she said lightly. I just don't feel comfortable. That's all. The cabin reacts. Across the aisle, the businessman with the Bluetooth earpiece let out a sharp scoff, shaking his head. Unbelievable, he muttered under his breath. 3 rows back, a young woman lifted her phone ever so slightly, pretending to text, but her camera was recording. Passengers shifted in their seats. Some whispered to each other, their voices hushed but their expressions unmistakable. Heads turned toward Patricia, toward Daniel, toward Emily. The energy in the cabin had changed, and Patricia felt it. The tide was shifting. She could sense it. But she wasn't about to back down. Her voice remained smooth, carefully controlled, the very picture of composed frustration. This is a simple request, she continued, injecting just the right amount of feigned politeness. I'm just asking to be accommodated. If I'm uncomfortable, I should have the right to move seats, shouldn't I? A reasonable request, on the surface. But Emily wasn't fooled. Her jaw tightened slightly, but her voice remained professional. Ma'am, she said firmly, I already checked. There are no open first-class seats available. Patricia's lips pressed together. She took a slow breath. And then she thought she found her solution. And coach? She asked, lifting her chin slightly. Emily hesitated. There are 2 open seats in economy. Patricia's shoulders relaxed. A spark of satisfaction flickered in her eyes. Perfect, she said. Then, with a graceful gesture of her hand, she added. He can take one of them. The cabin stirs. A ripple of murmurs spread through the cabin. Someone gasped softly. A man in the 3rd row let out a low, disbelieving chuckle, shaking his head. Daniel inhaled deeply. His fingers drummed once against the smooth surface of his laptop. Then they went still. He wasn't arguing. He wasn't defending himself. But he wasn't moving. Emily blinked once. As if replaying Patricia's words in her mind. As if making absolutely sure she had heard correctly. And then she squared her shoulders. Ma'am, her voice was lower now, steadier. Just to clarify. You want me to move this passenger to economy because you don't want to sit next to him? The question hung in the air. Patricia didn't hesitate. She sat up straighter, hands folding neatly in her lap. Yes. Emily draws the line. Emily inhaled through her nose, slow and measured. That won't be happening. The sharp finality in her tone made Patricia's eyes snap up. Excuse me, she said, voice a fraction sharper than before. Emily's hands folded neatly in front of her. Her stance unshakable. Mr. Stokes has a first-class ticket just like you, she stated clearly. He is in his assigned seat. I cannot and will not ask him to move. Silence. Then an unmistakable shift. Patricia's face burned. She was losing control. Passengers were no longer pretending not to listen. They were watching openly now, their eyes bouncing between Patricia, Emily, and Daniel. Some shook their heads. Some whispered to each other. The young woman with the phone, still recording. Patricia's stomach twisted. She had miscalculated. This wasn't going how it was supposed to go.